JC.
And I'm Juan. Welcome to The Couch, a podcast where real therapists talk about real things.
Please remember that while we are therapists, we are not your therapist, and this podcast is intended for educational purposes only.
So, my friends, welcome again to The Couch. We made it to episode 4, alive and thriving. How you feeling,
We're
Jason?
we're really rocking and rolling.
We are. We're taking names and pushing the good push.
Let's go.
All gone. That's like, man, this is random. You seen those rent-a-car commercials with, I think, Tom Brady?
Yes.
Oh, so annoying. There's something, I don't know. It's like the format of
What
it.
did Tom Brady do to you?
I'm like, they're. I feel like they could have given him a different role, like something cool. Maybe throwing a football and he's diving into the car.
Listen, if you ever decide that you want to take up marketing after your career as a counselor, I'm sure somebody would happily hire you for that.
That's true. Okay. I appreciate the positivity.
I
Maybe
do what I
I'm
can.
I'm just talking junk. Let me get that out of my system. Um, just kind of a reflection of the first 3 episodes. I've enjoyed it, enjoying them, present moment, and it feels like I'm learning and really appreciating the process.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I feel like when we came into this process, or rather when we came into the project, we kind of had a vision for what we wanted, and I think that it's turning into much more than what were thinking of initially, and that's very exciting to see how we're growing and changing as we go through this.
Mm. And it's a nice transition into today. Today's episode 4 of The Couch, building healthy relationships. Part of you and I doing this podcast is going to strengthen our relationship. And I think it also strengthen the relationship between this platform, The Couch, and all the listeners. You and I showing up with all the components that are meant to be in a healthy and strong friendship, I think are going to be components that are instilled in the fabric of this podcast.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you're doing stuff with people that you like.
Yep.
And as we learn more about each other, it only serves to make our professional relationship stronger and some of those personal relationships as well.
Yeah. And with that, looking at kind of jumping off right into it, building healthy relationships. This may be one of those is just it's repetitive. It's said over and over. Working on that relationship with yourself. Really working on getting to know yourself, getting to know your ups, your downs, your highs, your lows, your triggers, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. All of that. It takes time, it takes commitment, consistency, discipline. I think that's one of the first key steps to building healthy relationships. What do you think?
I think you're very correct. I believe the modern philosopher RuPaul said, if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else?
True,
And
true.
it kind of it rings true that, you know, even if you don't feel the best about yourself, you still deserve love. So please don't misconstrue what I am saying. But when you are solidly grounded in yourself, when you know what sort of person you are and you know exactly what you bring to any relationship you enter in, it allows you to make better and more healthy decisions about the people you choose to surround yourself with and the people you choose to involve yourself with.
Mm. And with this process of all right, you're listening and you're like, I want to take this in. I want to learn about building healthy relationships. And you know, you two are talking about, you two meaning us two, building a healthy relationship with yourself. I like to think about that as like this pathway. You got the yellow brick road that takes you all the way to the wizard, to Oz, and each of those bricks, it represents something, some sort of variable. And maybe one of those bricks can be the variable of honesty. Building healthy
Mm,
relationships with others means that you must be willing to build a healthy relationship with yourself and be honest with yourself. So if I'm honest with myself and I go, you know what? I lose stuff. Like, damn it, I lose things. Sometimes I'm like, hey, babe, where are my keys at? And I know it's, we've been married over 10 years and I'm still asking her what my keys are. So I know it ain't fun. I know that shit ain't fun. But I lose the keys. It doesn't serve me at all to go, I never lose my keys, because then I'm going to show up with a level of dishonesty in the relationships that I'll be in later down the road. So looking at this vulnerability, this honesty of, here's some of the areas that I'm improving on, here's my strengths, I think that helps me have a stronger tools to know what to work on.
I love that example specifically of knowing yourself, and knowing exactly what it is that you're going to be bringing to a relationship. I think people have a very integral fear of rejection. And so it
Mm-hmm.
can be super tempting to lie your way into a relationship, to build these false pretenses. Okay, well, I don't really like hockey, but this guy that I like likes hockey, so I'm going to watch hockey with him because I know it's what he likes. When in all reality, it's like is not enjoyable for you, and you're compromising part of who you are for a relationship that might not even work. So that honesty is just very important, because even if the relationship doesn't work, don't you want to go into it and come out of it knowing that you are the same person, or like that you were 100% who you are no matter what.
Hmm. And that could be a question, that you're asking yourself when it comes to building a healthy relationship. Writing down on a sheet of paper, what do I know about myself? What are my likes, my dislikes? What are my strengths? What are the areas that I need to improve on? What what boundaries do I need to uphold, etc.? What are my values? What are my core beliefs? You're digging into this, and it takes time. That's sometimes the most difficult thing to hear. That it takes time to get to know this person that you've been for years. I worked with a counselor one time, and must have been in my 30s. And I thought to myself, well, damn, I'm in my 30s. You think I know who I am? But there's there's just honestly so many things that we don't pay attention to because we're busy paying attention to all of the other shit that we got to pay attention to, that we often lose sight of ourselves.
Yeah, we don't really live currently in a society that values us finding who we are and living our truths, if you would, which is interesting because Western society is very individualistic to begin with, especially American society. That's where we are, by the way. We're in the US.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's the lens that we're functioning from. But there's always been a whole lot of like, stand out and be unique. But when it comes to being in a relationship or having any sort of relationship or friendship, you sort of get very opposite messaging. I
Yeah,
think a lot
yeah,
about middle schoolers and how difficult it is for them to make friends sometimes, because they're just trying to find out who they are, and they're right on that cusp of still having that childlike wonder of wanting to explore all the possibilities, but there's a looming, like, something is coming for them in the form of emerging adulthood, so their teenage years, where they're going to be pressured to fit in, and they're going to be pressured to adhere to certain standards, and they lose that finding themselves, so they end up in their 30s going, damn, you would think I would know myself by now, but did you get the opportunity to be yourself?
yeah. And what does that mean too, right? To be yourself, to be that authentic you. And this conversation, this is a wonderful one if you're working with a counselor to go deeper in. When you look at research and you're really digging into child development, you have this child that comes into the world, and right away there's an influence, right? The parents are influencing the child's behaviors on what to be, who to be, what to say, what not to say, how to act, how not to act. And you often see this, as simple as seeing it at a grocery store. It may be me you're watching at the grocery store, or I'm walking there, I'm walking with my son, and we're at the checkout aisle, and he goes, I want to get this candy. And I go, look at the candy, don't touch the candy. So now he's
Mhm.
like, I can't touch the candy. I can look at the candy. And this is a funny example I'm giving you, but you can comprehend the influence that I'm providing. So as a parent, I'm providing this influence that is um, impacting his own self, right? His own self
Hmm.
of knowing right from wrong, knowing what to do, what not to do. And there's examples that go to a much more extreme, but that often is what leads to maybe as an adult going into a situation and go, I never thought about it that way. Or, I've always seen the situations in a different light. So then you ask the person, well, how did you come to think this way? And they go, you know what? I had this message over and over in my home. And we go, well, there you go. That's the birth of it, if you will. But what do you want to do? How do you want to think? How do you want to look at this? And that's very different than going back and connecting those dots to early childhood.
I think even just in that context of who you are, finding who you are, and then using, what you figure out to determine how you make friends, that's such a Herculean task. That's so much to ask somebody to do. And, as we talk about building healthy relationships, you again, you can't be what you can't see. So, Juan, I kind of want your opinion on what do you think is the outcome for folk who've never seen a healthy relationship, and how much harder is it for them to work on creating healthy relationships?
Mm, you got to put me on the spot. That's messed up.
Sure did. You're welcome.
Well, ancient philosophers say, I'm not sure if the question is posed as how much harder or more difficult versus a willingness. We all have to work and uh, dig deep and uncover certain stones that may be a bit heavy, and there's often certain stones we don't want to uncover that need to be uncovered. So I
Hmm.
find that maybe here what's more appropriate is a willingness, an acceptance of I've got to go into this journey and I got to do these type of things so that um, that end in mind, later down the road, I'll find myself in a different situation that I may be a bit more appreciative of.
Mm, okay, all right. I see you. You did pretty good for being put on the spot.
Ah, I was sweating bullets.
You got it. You did great. um I think that willingness and the emphasis that you put on it is so important. um in my time of just being alive, I have noticed in my own way the ways that I'm not necessarily showing up for myself when it comes to doing the work on relationships, because it's hard. I want to have friends, I want to keep my circle of people as positive as possible. But then you run into things like conflict, and it's like, oh no, I don't think I know how to deal with this type of conflict healthily. And then it becomes a question of like, okay, well, if you can't do this, can you have a healthy relationship at all? And it
Hmm.
can be really discouraging.
Yeah, and there's a beauty to that though. If that's you and you're listening and you go, I relate to what JC said, where there's that struggle to deal with certain types of conflict. The beauty is your willingness to acknowledge that and to go, I struggle with that. And then that next step is, am I hungry for addressing that struggle, to one day waking
Hmm.
up and saying, I feel a bit more comfortable now dealing with this confrontation. I value myself at a different level. I'm upholding my boundaries and my values, practicing a nice level of self-respect. So that's
Hmm.
where, all of these wonderful mental health professionals can step in and support you, walk with you, side by side as you journey forward and addressing these items. When I'm going to go on a tangent here, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
When looking at building healthy relationships, one aspect is kind of just digging into, and again, there's so many directions here, but JC and I will do our best to show up friendships. Look at
Mm.
look at how are you building your friendships? Who taught you how to build friendships? And do you teach other people how to be a friend to you? Right. That last one, somebody taught me that. Those weren't my words. But that shit was deep. I was like, damn. I at the point I don't think I've ever actually taught, like literally taught someone on how I wanted them to be a friend for me. It kind of just it was just organic and genuine, and it just happened. And some things worked out really well, and some others didn't. There came a point though after that in my life where now when I build friendships, I bring those conversations out and I go, "Hey, here's what I look for in a friendship. If I hit you up and it's 6 days later, and then you're hitting me up, here's what I think about it, and here's how I
Hmm.
feel like it's going to impact our relationship." And I found that that really solidifies relationships. It also helps me weed out relationships as well.
Hmm. Wow, that definitely gave me pause because I don't think I've ever thought about teaching someone how to be a friend to me. Um, Especially just like in that context of like, hi, I really want to be your friend, and here's how we're friends. It kind of is like, when you're playing games with a little kid and they keep changing the rules to
Mm-hmm.
like fit what they want it to be. That's sort of what it feels like, but you're absolutely right. We have the power and the autonomy to teach folk how to interact with us. We don't have to just settle for anything. We can ask for what it is that we need.
Correct. And it's a difficult item to ask for what you need because it's a sense of vulnerability, right? And when you're building healthy relationships with yourself and with others, there's that fear, like, oh shit, if I tell this person that what they did was obviously hurtful and obviously I don't like it and I do not want it to happen again. But if I tell them that, you probably hear in the background my kids, they got a play date. They are
I
going
love it.
wild in the background.
I love it.
And if I tell this person that, what if they go, I'm out? That's scary sometimes for people, and I get it. That's a scary thing because the person can't
Hmm.
say, it's too much. I'm not dealing with you. So then you go, I don't want to be alone, and you have this dance, right? Do you choose to do that? And they say they don't want to be your friend. Now you're solo, or do you put all that in the little box, pretend it's not there, and continue that relationship forward?
I find that a lot of people pride themselves in being low maintenance when it comes to friends. Like, oh, I don't really need much. I don't, well, I don't really want to bother them. And I personally believe that that is a very bullshit way to see a friendship. Um, because if you're going to be my friend, you're going to be my friend. And what that looks like is, showing up for one another, being a part of each other's day to day, being a part of each other's life. And if you're not down for that, awesome, fine, whatever. But you should never feel the need to shrink yourself just to have a friend, because I promise you that there is someone who wants to be in your corner, who wants to be your friend, who wants to, help support you, and that you can help support, because friendship is not a one-sided endeavor. No relationship is.
Mm-hmm. And, that aspect there, it goes to which, we'll put a note to it. We'll do an episode on this when it's between adult children and their parents. It
Mm,
goes into those relationships as well. I get a lot of individuals that provide counseling for, and those are relationships we're focusing on where they feel that their relationship with their parents are one-sided or MIA or somewhere around there.
hmm.
The the other aspect of building healthy relationships, it connects to this really popular word, which is a side note. I'll tell you the word first: boundaries. Now,
Ah.
side note, check out Nidra Glover. She's got a good book. I think it's called Boundaries, and it's an important topic. The definition that I like to play with, and this I think I also borrowed from somebody else, is a house. So when you're looking at building a healthy relationship, you really want to have this tattooed on you, boundaries, because boundaries is what's going to allow you to have self-respect. Boundaries
Hmm.
will allow you to feel that you are in a healthy space. So a boundary is his house, called the boundary house. And in there is everything that represents you in a good way. Your core values, what you believe in, what makes you laugh, and so forth. And you're the only one that gets to open that door and say who comes in. So if I randomly meet you and your core value is kindness, and you see me at a grocery store and I'm rude to everybody, you see me at the restaurant, I'm rude to the waiter, I'm even rude to you, it's important to acknowledge that once you let me in to your home with my muddy feet, it's simple to know what will happen, right? All those values, all of those items that you have that you're upholding, you're bringing me into that sacred space. And that's where relationships can go in the wrong direction. So the message there is know your home and hold that strength, hold that empowerment of who you want to let in, who you want to close the door to. And sometimes closing the door can sound harsh. So to add some different words to it, you can step outside, close the door, have a conversation with that person, and let them know the rules of your home. And then if there's a willingness to abide by them, then you can bring them in.
I love that sort of explanation of like the muddy shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I know about boundaries is that boundaries dictate how other people are allowed to treat you, but
Mm-hmm.
do
Yep.
not dictate other people's actions.
Yep.
So a boundary is with yourself first and foremost, because it sets the tone for how you're going to let other people treat you. One, with that example of, if I'm rude to everybody and I'm rude to you, but kindness is your core value, what you allow will continue. And setting boundaries is difficult, especially when it comes to a relationship. And you can even think to higher levels of relationships. If you married somebody who is egregiously messy, they're messy all the time and they're messy in ways that cause you stress, and you knew that they were messy before you married them, you didn't set that boundary and you didn't let yourself maintain the boundary of like, okay, I know this person is messy. What are we going to do to resolve it? And loose boundaries create resentment
Mm.
for which you have to take responsibility because you are the only person who can enforce a boundary on your behalf.
Yeah. Well said. So, you're listening in and you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, I want to build a healthy relationship. And so far, you've got with you the importance of upholding and getting to know your boundaries, the importance of teaching other people how to show up for you, the importance of the ongoing work that goes into a relationship. The and what I want you to think about there, we'll stop for a moment, is the ongoing work of relationships is very similar to purchasing a home. You
Hmm.
could purchase this home and that shit could be pristine, brand new. I'm talking
Hmm.
2023. You drop some good money on it. But
Hmm.
I promise you in time, certain things will happen. That nice drywall that looks so perfect, it'll start to crack a little bit. And the windows
Hmm.
that didn't let any air in are going to have a little draft to them. That dishwasher that they told you would last 10 years, it's time to replace it. And the message there, it's not so much of, well, I'm not buying a house. The message there is your relationships require that understanding of how will you work at this. If you see the drywall cracking, will you leave it and wait for another month, another year until it's a huge hole, and then decide to go see a counselor, or
Hmm.
will you start to do the early work? And I find what helps us build healthy relationships is you patch as you go. You turn inward towards each other. You address as a team. And before you know it, you'll build these wonderful friendships. You'll build relationships with your colleagues at work. You'll build a relationship with yourself that is wonderful and lasting, and so forth.
Yeah, that's again, that house metaphor is really just it's hitting.
We love houses
Okay,
here. Changing
we
the
love
podcast
houses
name
here.
to The
The
House.
house, it's like the house.
Be like, damn, don't
Like,
even own my houses.
listen, we've expanded. We are no longer just a couch. We are now a house.
Yeah, we came
Um,
into some money, so but now we got a house.
we came into some money. We got a USDA loan. Like, we're doing great. Um, but this idea of maintaining the house that is your relationship harkens back to what we talked about in episode 2, where, therapy is preventative. Like, when's the best time to start looking for a therapist? When's the best time to make a sit down list with your partner or your friends and say, hey, I noticed some things have been happening in our friendship. I want to remain friends. I want to keep doing this with you. I love you and I care about you. Let's address it. It feels very inorganic to do it that way, but I promise you, it is so much more than that. Um, People do not naturally go to other people and sit them down and say, I've just noticed that we're having some problems and I want to talk about it. Because that shit's weird, right? Like, that's not how you would typically talk to someone. But a little bit of discomfort and bringing it up is worth being able to maintain relationships that mean a lot to you.
Yeah. And maybe we should start leaning into a little bit more of like honesty spaces, right? Building a healthy
Hmm.
relationship. I do that with couples. I encourage this is free. Remember, I'm a therapist, not your therapist. I'm gonna throw this out there. I encourage that to be a ritual. Ritual like people on Sundays find themselves at church. That's a ritual. And they do that for a
Hmm.
long minute. So ritual with couples, have these times that you sit down with each other and come in and evaluate how things are going. Let's see, the last item that we had on here with building healthy relationships is families. And I think you good if I touched on this one first?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Yeah, this is such a broad one because there's so many cultural components connected to it. There's
Mhm.
what is that saying? Blood is thicker than something.
So the phrase is blood is thicker than water. However,
Yeah.
it's often
Oh
misquoted,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I get. Oh,
and
definitely,
it's often
definitely.
misquoted, and the
Yes.
original quote is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb.
Mm-hmm.
But it essentially means the same thing, just in reverse. So blood is thicker than water, family over everything. The blood of the covenant is thicker than
Mm-hmm.
the water of the womb, found family over everything. It just depends on your perspective.
Yeah. And I find sometimes statements like that they can cloud and hide so much. All the way from telling your kids, we don't do that, and it steals away a person's authenticity. Or
Mm-hmm.
telling a child, go give your uncle or your aunt or whoever a hug. Right,
Mm.
the boundary there of physical space is not being respected. Maybe that child does not want to give the person a hug. And now the child who's 5 develops and is 15 and is 20, and they find themselves really struggling to protect their own physical boundary because of these early lessons. Same for adults. I know myself, and as a Latino, this is just me. Your experience as a Latino may be different from mine, so I don't want to cast a shadow over that. I'll share mine. Growing up, there were those messages of, family over everything. Familia, just really just beaten into you, where you know a family could do whatever. You put whatever you want on there, they could do, but you don't turn the other way. And
Mm-hmm.
what happens is it clouds the definition. It doesn't let you really develop your own clean one. It can create a toxic generational pattern. And it's why when you look at research and you see these patterns and you go, okay, so there was this sense of abuse that took place generations back and it's still happening now. You see those things and it's not just a coincidence. It's not just something that, oh, it just happened. Those are often because you've got these loud statements, family over everything. We don't do that. Don't talk about that. That's just the way it is. And it hides, it doesn't allow people to uncover those needed stones that disrupt toxic patterns and allow a new beginning to take place. So this is a big topic. We'll probably have another episode on this one. When it comes to building healthy relationships and family, I find that it's really important to take a step back from an objective point of view, look at your family system and really look at the core values, the core beliefs, the rituals, the structure, and identify how many of them can you circle that are healthy practices that allow a person to not survive, but thrive. The ones that aren't, replace them.
Oh man. Yeah, we're definitely going to have to talk about like toxic patterns and generational trauma at some point because those are really heavy topics that kind of like come out over the course of counseling.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to add on to your experiences of like the cultural lens of family is that families are not one size fits all, and families are created of a bunch of different things. You've got families of origin, so the family that you come from. You've got blended families, maybe two people who are divorced and have children come together to make one big family. Found families, folk who don't have any biological family, find these communities that they form strong ties with. Family looks different. And by expanding your horizon of what family means to you and looks like to you, you open yourself up to a world where that hurt, that wound that perhaps your family left on you can be healed by new definitions, by making new meaning, and by creating something brand new.
Yeah. And it takes, it takes work, it takes time. And it's just finding that first step. And it's sometimes I often find, not sometimes, I often find that it's helpful to have your own system of support when you're going to take that journey. So sometimes I could be having a counselor there by your side to provide that safe space as you journey into these new land that can be murky, it could be difficult, it could be lonely. But certainly, we'll make sure that on the podcast here on the couch in the future, we'll tap a little bit further into trauma, generational trauma, that cultural view of family. The message from my end that I'd like for you to walk away with when it comes to building healthy relationships in the category of family is I'd like for you to write down building healthy relationships, circle healthy, jot down all of the variables to connect to what healthy means, a definition of it, and then go back and plug it into what's happening within the family system. Because I may say, a healthy family means that, everyone's coming together on a certain day and having a dinner. Somebody else may say having a healthy family system is everyone is choosing and wanting to come together to have this family dinner. It's a big difference, right? And the first example I gave you, there's no choice. I'm saying come here, have a great time. Side note, you ever wonder during the holidays like Thanksgiving, Christmas, there's like a huge influx of people seeking therapy,
Mm-hmm.
which is quite interesting considering that it's supposed to be a positive, friendly time. But it brings this like underneath layer of exposure of what's also happening. And it's that sometimes what's happening is these people are coming together and they're just, they're just ready to go back. They're ready to get out to be like, can we do this dinner so I can dip out?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, we'll have a whole separate episode on it.
Stay tuned, season two. We're definitely gonna pick that up.
Oh yeah. And let's see. We're towards the end of the episode, so we always end these here on the couch with personal growth challenge. If you're good with it, JC, I'll drop mine real quick, and then you'll drop yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I'm gonna give you the same one. When you're looking at building healthy relationships, here's a personal growth challenge I want you to identify. Be able to write down, my goal. I want to build healthy relationships, and then I want you to circle healthy. And even if you have to get online, identify what that definition is. What does it look like? Healthy means I get to choose what I want to do. Healthy means I feel in spaces. I find myself in spaces where I'm not anxious, I'm not jittery, I'm not restless. Healthy means that when I receive a message, a text from this person, I'm excited to reply back versus the opposite, right? And we've been in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So once you jot all of that down, I just want you to look at it. I just want you to see what you have in front of you and sit with it, reflect on it, and that's it. Just let that be a moment of itself.
It's a great exercise. My personal growth challenge for you today is for those of you who listened to today's podcast and said, actually, my relationships are pretty healthy and I feel really good about the relationships I do have. you should show some gratitude towards those people. So I want you to shoot off a text message, a Facebook message, a letter, a carrier pigeon, whatever it is you want to use, and let somebody know that you're grateful for the way you interact in your relationships. On the other side of things, if you have a relationship that you're realizing you really want to work on because it's worth it to maintain it, reach out to that person and say, hey, love you, appreciate you. I love being your friend, your sister, your spouse, whatever the relationship is. And I want us to be better together. Can we take some time and talk about some stuff?
I like that. That's a wonderful one. Yeah, good job, JC, plugging that one
Oh,
in.
thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Let's see, episode 4 of the couch. I've enjoyed it. This is certainly one where I've been jotting down notes. I think this episode can come into like a whole separate, multiple other episodes that can be really inviting and supportive. So we're gonna make sure to do that heavy work for y'all.
Yeah. And also, just as you guys are listening, if you ever have any questions or if you have like ideas for the podcast, hopefully we'll have some way for you guys to like comment on it or get in touch with us to say, like, oh, hey, you guys talked about this. Can you talk about this more?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. That is a great
We'll put
idea.
that together at some point.
Yeah, we'll have something of that for y'all later down the road as soon as we can.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next episode, we are diving into our mental health journey and really just plugging into what do we need to do to take care of ourselves? How do we seek help? Those items plugging into mental health journey. I'm excited about that one. I think it's going to take an interesting spin, be very supportive, helpful, action oriented. So you're listening and plugging in items to level up your life.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting too to have it from, the therapist perspective because, we're out here helping other people, but how do we help ourselves?
That's true. You're about to find out all the ice cream I'm eating.
Not all the ice cream. Listen, I'm lactose intolerant. You can keep that to yourself, but we'll have ourselves a
No.
grand old time.
There we go. All right. We will see y'all in the next episode.
We'll see you on the next episode. Bye.